Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Big Fat Conspiracy Theory. You had the three of us knuckleheads, Stone, Javier, Joe. With us today, we have a special guest, Jenny. We just randomly picked her up off the street. She knew a lot about this subject. Today, we will be talking about the conspiracy of Satanic Panic of the 80s and 90s. Dun, dun.
Dude, I was legit gonna say buttholes.
Already.
Like hard, dude. I don't know why.
You were gonna go hard on buttholes, huh?
Yeah. Alright. Nah, like,
Yeah. Alright.
Joe, go to let us know. What is the Satanic Panic for those of us who do not know?
Alright, so basically the Satanic Panic of the 80s and 90s. What it breaks down to is a lot of people in the media believe that the wrongdoings and criminality of the 80s and 90s was being caused by cults, satanic rituals, just the occult in general, from sexual abuse to people being sacrificed and anything basically bad that happened in the 80s and 90s. They just wrote off as, it was satanic rituals. Satan had something to do with it. It was the Satanic Panic.
Oh my God.
Some say it started in 1980 with the publication of the book Michelle Remembers.
Yeah, damn.
Now, Michelle Remembers is a book by Lawrence Pastor, and his patient at the time, who became his wife, Michelle.
What was he? He was a psychologist or no?
A psychologist.
Was
yes.
he
Psychiatrist or psychologist?
No, he was a psychologist because.
Hey, we haven't even got in here until like 2 minutes,
everything.
and dang.
So.
Well, wait, what's the difference?
What's the difference?
Psychologist isn't real.
Yeah, there's psychiatrists and psychologists, not
Oh
psychologists.
my God. Oh my God.
Okay.
Hey, I'm just learning.
Wait. Every time he's learning.
Yeah, hey, every time I hit this show, you already know.
So,
God damn. What happened?
It hurts sometimes, I promise.
No, it didn't.
Well, he used a method called recovered memory therapy with Michelle. She remembered satanic ritual abuse, and this led to claims throughout the country about physical and sexual abuse of people in the context of the occult and satanic rituals. Most extreme allegations involved a conspiracy of global satanic cult ran by the wealthy and elite, in which kids were bred for human sacrifices and sexual abuse. So I'm wondering if the Satanic Panic of the 80s is kind of where Jeffrey Epstein got his start.
Oh, I didn't even. Oh my God! Why didn't I even think to look at that
Piece that up at all.
during that part? I was too.
I was one track minded. Sorry.
I was like psychiatric into. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just messing around.
So what I remember most, if you guys feel to step in, because we have a bunch of different topics we want to hone in on for the entire Satanic Panic.
Yeah.
The two ones that I want to bring to the table is the McMartin preschool trial. Have you guys heard of that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the McMartin preschool trial, it was a sexual abuse case in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
The investigations took place from 84 to 87,
Yep.
and the trial ran from 87 to 1990. Some crazy accusations that were actually made by the parents for the McMartin daycare said that the children were abused as part of a satanic ritual, and they also saw witches fly by in hot air balloons. That the children were taken in underground tunnels, and that one of the children identified Chuck Norris as his abuser.
Oh my God.
That really happened.
It's a stretch.
Right.
Chuck Norris?
Ultimately, the charges were dropped because the clinical psychologist, or psychologist, however you want to pronounce it,
Timmy, which one?
who testified as an expert witness in this case, said the techniques were improper, coercive, directive, and problematic adult directing in a way to force the children to follow a script. Now, see, I was alive during this time, and as I remember it playing out on TV, this is where we get the whole terminology, show me on the puppet where your abuser touched you. That was from this. This is what they did in the trial. This is what they did to the preschoolers. There was a HBO made-for-TV movie about it by the same thing, the McMartin preschool trials, I think. So I actually remember this happening. I know you guys weren't born yet. Jenny, I don't know if you remember any of this in the news.
Mm-hmm.
I remember.
I had a sheltered childhood for a long time.
Right. So yeah, I mean, it was crazy that it happened that way. But yeah, all charges were dropped. What do you guys know about?
So when they went into and did the suggestive, the interviews perhaps with the children,
Right.
They're taking essentially that puppet, right, and like you said, they're drawing up a script. So they're making the puppet point to which areas they could be abused, but these kids are not saying which. They're just agreeing which upon they're being told.
Right.
In a sense.
Right.
I
As
mean,
an adult's an authoritative figure, you're going
Right.
to agree with an adult.
Right. And then eventually, I mean, the charges got dropped after 7 years of hoopla, right? I don't know what to think because there's no definitive answer. You know, like you said, I wasn't alive, so I have no recollection of any of this. But just reading articles, they couldn't come up with any strong
Actual proof.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
For
they couldn't
either
come up with
side
an
of the
answer.
story.
Yeah.
I think it all started with a lady, and I don't remember her name or recall it properly, but she had said that her child was being sodomized by her ex and one of the main caretakers at the preschool. I don't remember his name exactly. I personally think she may have just been trying to get back at her ex because nothing was actually found. They examined the child, nothing was out of the ordinary, you know? And just to be a kid to have to go through that's got to be terrible.
And before we get into any further, conspiracy speculation of what happened then, how did it affect your day to day when you were growing up in this time period?
Growing up in this time period, it was it was crazy because Jenny will remember our parents were like, "Look, come home when the street lights turn on." You know, so we were allowed to leave because there was no screens, there were no computers, there were none of that. So we were allowed to leave the house as soon as breakfast and cartoons were over. We didn't have to be back until the street lights came on. Our parents didn't know where we were, didn't know what we were doing. We would travel across town. We would, get into trouble and do whatever we wanted.
I mean, if you've seen the movie Stand By Me, it's pretty much
it was that.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. All then we were taught, okay, stranger danger.
Right.
If you come across a stranger, don't say hi to him. Don't get near him. Don't, get in the van with candy or whatever.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And then we were also taught, everyone's gonna try to give you drugs. Literally, no one tries to give you drugs. They're expensive. You know what I'm saying? No one's handing out free drugs. That was the biggest myth of my childhood.
This is the time when you would Halloween trick or treat and your parents were supposed to check every piece of candy.
Yeah.
Because they said, people are putting drugs and razor blades in your candy.
Yeah.
They're like, really? And no, it's just your parents were like, oh yeah, this probably has a razor blade in it. And they were eating it later while they were getting stoned. Because that's what the parents at the time were doing.
Oh my God. And this is also from the era of children should be seen and not heard, too.
Yeah.
And also, the only reason I have that down is because that's what they were mentioning, and I just saw that actually, I feel like that caused harm later on more than it did during the time before. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe there was a time for that, and then now I just feel like it was actually harming children instead of.
Because
You know what I'm saying?
How do you feel it harms children?
I just feel with the uprise, I'm not saying specifically during this time, but I just feel like a little bit after this time, maybe the 90s, I want to say, that saying was still being pushed, and I feel like the child touching definitely was progressive. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, so they weren't able to
allowed
speak out because
Yeah.
they were supposed to be seen and
Yeah,
not
just
heard.
seen.
Yeah,
That makes
makes
sense.
That's the only one that stuck out to me. Like literally when I read that, I was like, oh my god.
No, that makes sense. They were afraid to speak up.
Oh, see? Look, every now and again,
Oh,
bam, you just blow my mind.
Hey,
Fucking phenomenal.
hey, bring that motherfucker in one more
Yeah.
time. No, but I also too wanted to just put on this real quick at the fact that when we do give your children a voice, you know, it comes with a little bit of that, you know, well, the way the children might start, like, you know, well, I have a voice, so let me say my.
Oh, absolutely.
So that's I feel like the only downfall of that. But if that is the only downfall that could be corrected with the correct words, speaking back to your child, you know, I think that could be fixed. But you get to hear, I feel like everything your child wants to say.
We try to encourage Joe to have a voice. But
Yes.
our
right
main
voice.
focus is to have your voice, but speak respectfully. And you know, come from a place of honesty. So if you're respectful and honest, people will listen. But if you're just, you know, disrespectful and being loud to be loud, people are not. They're going to tune you out.
Yep.
That's the way everybody is. But if you're respectful and honest from the get-go, no matter what, people are going to listen. Even if they don't believe you, they're going to listen because you're being respectful. You're being honest. You know, being real.
Yeah.
It's just real people. What are some things you guys know about the Satanic Panic era? Anything you guys really want to touch on other than preschool children?
I don't want to touch preschool children.
Good.
I just want to put that forward, but I do
Nobody
want to
should.
touch. Nobody should do that.
Hey,
Cheers to that.
what's wrong with y'all?
Sorry. I know we're probably going to get to this topic, and I could be jumping ahead of us real quick. But going along with the satanic panic or the satanic ritual abuse is what they went along and called it. Followed a whole bunch of false allegations that were made up mainly around daycare centers, right? Around the 80s, late 80s, 90s. Now the biggest one here that I've been reading on was the West Memphis 3. In the 90s, which were 3 teenagers who were wrongly convicted on homicide charges, which was based on a little bit more than suspicion over their goth lifestyles.
That's
Now-
the story I follow.
Oh, so we can go into that
Jenny's
too.
an
Yeah.
expert on the West
Yeah.
Memphis 3.
I love that. So that's what I wanted to say too,
I
because
watched
we got.
everything on them.
Okay, so we can get into that. Just because we got off the fact, you know, kids should be seen and not heard, but when these kids decide to try and cover their side or their story, they just erase everything they said. You know, they followed which their lifestyles, what they followed, and claimed because they followed certain lifestyles, they had to have been following cults and different rituals. So yeah, that's what I was reading on was the West Memphis 3, and how just outrageous that was.
What do you want to add?
Well, that's what I was going to add is the story behind them, and they are considered part of the Satanic Panic. But the story's deep, and there's a lot going on to it.
Well, let us know the
Yeah,
story.
yeah.
Let us know the whole thing.
Yeah, what is going on?
So the West Memphis 3 were 3 men convicted in 1993 of the murders of 3 boys. The 3 teenagers were Damien Eccles, considered the leader of the group, and Jesse Misikoleski Jr. and Jason Baldwin. So they were convicted of killing 3 boys on May 5th of 1993. The boys were named Steve Branch, Michael Moore, and Christopher Byers. Now these boys were playing outside of their house and in West Memphis, Arkansas, on the night of May 5th. At 6:30 was the last time the 3 boys were seen.
So wait, this was 1993.
Yes.
And the 3 boys were killed.
And the
right?
3 boys were killed, but they were convicted in 94.
Okay, so but still, so see, even in 93, 3 boys, how old, do you know how old the boys
The boys
were?
were 8 years old.
I was born.
So 3 8-year-old boys in 93 playing in the middle of the night was normal.
Right.
Normal practice. I wouldn't let my son go out at night. He's 12. I wouldn't let him go play out and do whatever he wanted now at night.
And
You know what I'm
no.
saying?
Yes.
Right? At all. No.
Hey, they ain't even allowed in the backyard.
Right.
Somehow,
1993,
Predator can swoop down and get them.
It was cool. And maybe that's why now at this time, this day and age, we don't do that.
It was scary.
Because we knew, you know, we were rolling the dice, and our parents had to know, but they, you know, just were like, get out of my hair.
Right.
What?
But
Yeah.
anytime a child left the house, you know, we were rolling the dice. Hey,
Yeah.
you know, 50-50 chance you're not coming home.
Right.
Love ya.
We'll see you.
So
Sorry, go ahead.
It's okay. So the 3 boys were last reported being seen around 6:30 that night. And after then, no one had seen them. Around 7 is when Mark Byers, which is Christopher Byers, one of the 8-year-old boys who died, adopted father. He reported them missing to the police. Unfortunately, it took the next day, at the evening time of May 6th, for there to be a graphic scene where the boys were found stripped naked, hogtied with their own shoelaces, and Christopher Byers had lacerations to parts of his body, as well as mutilation to his scrotum and penis. At the time of their arrest, Jesse was 17, Jason 16, and Damien Echols 18. The reason the boys were arrested, more to the fact, is they were only seen in that area by the creek by an onlooker girl who said she noticed them. Now, that is the only evidence of them even being in that area. At the time of the evidence that was found, there were no clothing, no DNA, no body parts, no other evidence that links the boys to where the boys were graphically found. Unfortunately, though, they interviewed these 3 teenagers at length. Damien was interviewed for 30 days constantly because of him being considered part of a satanic panic cult.
Now, when they were interviewed, were their parents present? Were their parents notified?
So their parents actually were notified, but Jesse is considered on the lower spectrum, almost slow. And his dad allowed them to talk with him, but he didn't necessarily allow the interviews. So there's like back and forth on what happened with Jesse.
Okay.
Now Jesse, so unfortunately Damien, because he was the leader of the group, they consider, he becomes information at sometimes for them. They're like, okay, maybe he's part of this. And the reason they link these 3 boys is because, again, someone said they saw them by the area. And because the kids had been hogtied and parts of their body parts missing, they considered it a ritual. So they pushed it on Damien, who was known to be cult-like. Then Jesse was, they say he was on the slower end of the spectrum, and he was interviewed for 12 hours straight.
Damn.
After exhaustion, coercion, he said, he admitted to the killing of the 3 boys, that they did it. But quickly, within hours later, recanted his story, saying that he was coerced and forced into a confession by the police.
Okay, so my thing is that the media saying he felt he was coerced? Because if I'm, forgive me for all,
No.
If I'm on the slower end of the spectrum, I'm not gonna postulate that I was coerced.
No, so of course,
You know what I'm saying?
Of course, and
Yeah.
that's the media saying those words, but in his words, he had said
He was like, they made me do it.
they made me feel like I had to say.
I mean, after 12 hours of interrogation, you got to have some point of giving up. Obviously the government is not.
12 hours.
The police is not going to give up.
I'm pretty sure.
They're waiting.
I'm pretty sure this was.
They're waiting for you to give up, which obviously he did.
And he
Yeah.
was the only one that
They
confessed.
exhausted
Jason Baldwin and Damien Echols never confessed the story. And Jesse quickly recanted his story and said, no, I felt like I was forced.
How old was
Again.
the person giving the interview? I mean, getting the interrogation interviews.
Huh?
How what?
How old was the person in
The cop?
I don't.
No,
yeah,
not the cop. Was it a teenager?
the boys were 17, 16, and 18.
Oh, okay.
So
It's pretty young then.
yes,
For some
the
interrogation.
18-year-old was Damien, the one they considered to be the leader of the group. Now, so the interesting thing about this story, and there's a wonderful documentary on it called Paradise Lost. That's a trilogy from the beginning of the story to the middle of the court proceedings to the end where they are today. So with the West Memphis 3,
You're messing up my canoe.
well, you moved my thing.
You guys, you keep acting like this, and we're gonna tip
We're gonna tip the canoe. Don't tip the canoe, lady. They're heavy.
I know. So with the
We're gonna
West
die.
Memphis
This is our
3,
podcast. You can't just take it over.
with the
We're gonna have to
Memphis
change his
3,
name.
You start to feel for these. You start to feel for these young kids, and they actually have famous people that went to their court proceedings.
They have them? Where do they have them? Do they have them in like a box?
Yeah. Famous people show up there?
So Johnny Depp was one of them that believed their story, and I think they even said Reese Witherspoon believed their story. But the only evidence, again, they have is just the one person who said.
What's the one person's name who said they saw?
I cannot remember her name.
Is it Jim? Her name's Jim?
Her name's Jim.
I cannot remember her name.
Jim Ecclebean. She's a psychologist.
So
the name was.
She's a psychologist. She's the world's first psychologist.
Where the heck did they even get that word?
You make things up. It's my favorite. Every episode. Look, from here on out, if you don't make a word up every episode, I'm going to be scored.
It's gonna be.
Dude, I know you would be mad. You know,
but
I think my brain chimes that in.
It's just so genuine. Because
I make you look that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He does.
Yeah, just play it off.
It's by accident. I do it on
Hey,
purpose.
they know me outside of this, so they know I just make a word. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And we've never heard you make up words before. Anyway.
So in 1994, the three teenagers, Damien Eccles, Jesse, and Jason, get convicted of the horrible, brutal slaying of the three young 8-year-old boys, with only evidence stating that they were seen by the crime scene and absolutely no DNA.
But were they using DNA in 93?
That's the thing. They only had certain traces of DNA back then. But the story gets better because years later they recounted this DNA. Now, there was outroar by the community and outroar by obviously their family.
Like lions?
What's going on? Outroar?
There are lions roaring. Meow! It's Arkansas.
They got outroared.
They got
Oh
outroared.
my God, I can't feel it.
But who are they outroared by?
Listen, so the community was upset because there's one side of it that believes
they didn't outroar anymore. They were just upset.
These three boys were brutally slain by these three teenagers, and there's another half of the community that feels that they're not. One of the big
They knew exactly it was 50-50?
You could see who's more relaxed and calm in our marriage.
Wait, we're married? Oh, sorry. You remember your story. The ones that were pretty successful.
So, there's one part of the community that felt like Christopher Byers' adopted dad, Mark Byers, was part of it. The reason why is that the grave sites of the kids, he acted really weird. The grave sites of his own adopted son, he was just really weird. And people had said they seen him around the crime scene as well. But he was completely overlooked.
How was he acting really weird? Was he like listening to the Beatles?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Mid-90s?
They thought his ways of crying and grieving just felt really unreal. They felt like it was all fake. And after these gentlemen, and it's hard for me to tell what side I want to be on, but I do feel there was not enough evidence to convict them. But these teenagers did 18 years in prison. Damien was sentenced to death. And Jesse and Jason were sentenced to life in prison. Now, after 18 years, within that whole time frame, the boys kept fighting for their innocence. Now, they finally got some more evidence again from the crime scene. The evidence at the crime scene still, when they did it again in 2007, showed no DNA of any of the three boys. But
so it's fake?
It did show.
So it's looking fake or what?
No, I mean this really happened.
The boys really died.
Killed.
Yeah.
No DNA of the
Killers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so no, the three boys really died. I mean, they were brutally murdered, and they have pictures at the crime scene.
Jeez.
But as years go on, you're now in the 2000s, there's better ways to test DNA. There was absolutely no DNA found on any of the clothing or the crime scene stuff from Jesse, Damien, or Jason.
So were they released?
No.
Oh.
But there was DNA of Mark Byers. And the reason Mark gets let go to not be in prison is they say that, he was the father of Christopher Byers. His DNA could have been on his shirt.
Hey, yo.
So it's completely overlooked. In 2007, though, they finally get freed, and the reason why is they come to an Alford plea. An Alford plea is where you basically are allowed to say that you are saying you're innocent while accepting evidence against you to allow the state to say you are guilty, but the state is agreeing based on evidence that they will allow you to finally be released of your full sentence.
Is that like pleading no contest on a speeding ticket?
In a way, it's almost like what you're saying.
Huh.
The reason the boys, well, at this time they're no longer teenagers, but
I need input from you two.
I did put input.
Jesus,
I'm just
Shuffle.
listening. I did put input. I needed to know if
You don't even remember what you needed to
No,
know.
I remember what I needed to know.
What did you needed to know?
I needed to know if this was fake or not.
No. The
Yeah,
conspiracy is, did they do it or were they wrongfully imprisoned?
Yeah.
Now, many feel they were wrongfully imprisoned because of lack of DNA.
I think the father did it. Honestly, based on the
Well, I mean, Damien, is he still
Are we solving this? Because I think
No.
I just did.
Here's the thing, though. It gets better.
Put me on.
So the reason they
Let's get this case going.
decided to do the Alford plea, they originally wanted their innocence. They did not want to say they were guilty with evidence. They wanted their innocence. Damien was set to die.
Yeah.
And so, because remember, he had received a death sentence. But if they were to have continued on fighting, Damien would have been
put to death
before their innocence. So they chose to stop it. And so they took the Alford plea.
Saved by the bail.
Now, to this
He
day,
was holding on for some time, though.
Damien still fights. And the state of Arkansas has got mad at him and has told him, you did the Alford plea, we're done with it.
So it's like double jeopardy.
In a way. He's trying to still get,
He's like, hold
he
on.
still fights for it. The boys, though, are actually quite successful. Damien is a director, producer, and writer of certain movies, one being his own documentary. So is Jason Baldwin, and Jason is an actor, too. And Jesse just kind of lives in a small, quaint little area with his wife and is retired.
I want to back up Jesse a little bit because here in the article they had to go ahead and disclose his IQ. That was necessary.
What was his IQ?
71. You know, I feel that was a little unnecessary. Give my man Jesse his props. No, on other
Roger's
notes,
got a 72.
on other notes, I mean, I think.
Hey, what is the actual level that you're supposed to like have to not be
72, but
okay.
I mean, you're just making it.
Damn. Hey, that's what I'm talking
You might make up words, but you're doing it, man. Every day, you're a little better.
You're with us.
Yeah, I made it.
I think it's, you know, do we have the saying of innocent until proven guilty back then? Or
It's always been a thing. Yes, it's in our
right, but you know how like it kind of got skewed.
I was gonna say it's in our
It
constitution.
almost got skewed over time.
Might be in the Bill of Rights.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It looks like I'm not the only 72. I'm just kidding. Hey, I am just kidding. I am solidly the only 72.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Well, no, just 'cause we're gonna do IQ test on our next show.
But
So
during
we can
this
surprise
time,
IQ test.
during this time, police forces wanted to close cases so quickly. I mean,
Beer run.
I watched another story
I'm good, Bubba.
about a woman with her
All this is
family
getting cut. So,
that lived in
bro.
cabin 28, and it was, we're cutting this.
All this is
What's
getting
the beer
cut.
run?
When,
Next, I'm gonna talk about D&D. Do you guys got crazy
Oh,
stuff?
wait.
It doesn't
No.
matter.
Wait, let me just come in real quick with what I have a little bit on.
Stoney talk about his part of this.
I just want to finish mine real quick. I got like 2 more
Go ahead.
seconds. That's it.
Oh, what did you
Sorry,
Well, we gotta
Stoney,
wait till you
stole
get
your
back.
story.
No, you just
It
did my
doesn't
story.
matter.
I bought it because of you.
Oh, you bought him?
Yeah.
Joe told you I was doing it?
Yeah. No, Joe told me that you just like your.
Yeah, that'll work. It
Yeah,
doesn't-
because
Well,
I
we can always do the
Friends.
Cindy.
Yeah.
But I do. I
Oh.
watch all the time.
That's
I
the
watch
red one?
Forensic Files. Jim started me watching Forensic Files. But when I watched the documentary of this, I did a ton of research.
You
I
need
did the
one or
research.
no?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
I did the research on this stuff years and years ago.
I didn't know this happened. So this was news to me after Joe told me.
Bastion?
The only false accusation I ever heard before this was Emmett Till.
Oh, is this
That was crazy.
Emmett Till.
Emmett Till back, I think, 50s. I don't want to get the timeline wrong. But Emmett Till was a young African American kid.
Ever since you started doing that,
apparently there's a story
way
on
better,
how
huh?
he made a movie on a white girl.
Oh, no, but I know your story.
Yeah, the
Yep.
white girl told her brothers,
And
they ended up killing him.
Nope, I remember. And he was innocent. He never did anything.
So,
And they later find it out.
Right.
I do remember. I just
so it's
forgot
like
the name.
that's the only false accusation
The
of the story.
evidence on this almost really
How
makes
did
you
yours
think
still
the
think-
virus.
I think yours is bigger.
Wait.
Hey, we're keeping it.
You okay?
Mine is. It's wider.
Yeah.
Mine will hold an actual pint.
Yeah.
Yours will hold an American pint, which is 12 ounces. I was like, how the fuck? I got a magic glass.
Cheers.
My glass drank half my drink.
Cheers.
Excuse me.
Oh my god.
Now we're back.
And we're back.
Nice.
Now what was
West Memphis 3.
Yes. So no, I was just saying because the phrase innocent until proven guilty, I feel like even nowadays it kind of got skewed a little bit. Over time you try and convict somebody on as little as possible just to get them in to say what the bigger picture is. Now that's where we're going here. I figured, like Jenny said, the cops were trying to just get arrests under their belts and bring everybody in as they can. I think it was kind of messed up. I never heard of a false accusation story, and I do believe it is a false accusation. I don't think these gentlemen did anything. Prior to Emmett Till. That's another story for another day.
Right.
But yeah, that was the last false accusation story I ever heard. So this was pretty interesting to me. And that was it.
All right.
Javier?
Javier, what do you got about to say?
okay, just to add on for some killing and people getting, this one's by music, rock and roll. Or some hard rock.
Oh, are we going to talk about this?
So hard rock throughout this Satanic Panic
Heavy
was
metal, more or less?
no, I think it was called hard rock. The genre was hard rock.
Heavy metal. Name a band from the hard rock era.
Judas Priest,
Heavy metal.
Slayer,
Heavy metal.
Twisted Sisters.
Heavy metal.
I don't think that's heavy metal.
Well, Twisted Sister
Why
is
does
more
it heavy
thrash
in
rock.
hard rock? Yeah, not bad.
What do we call it?
You know what? I am now.
Obviously, in the sand with a sword.
What I could have sworn was that's their board, but I'm not going to sworn it anymore.
You sworn it. Don't sworn it.
No, I did.
You sworn
No,
it,
I
but
did.
don't do it.
Wow, I'm taking it back.
Stop sworn
Because
it.
clearly.
Back to action. Take us away.
Okay.
Okay, so among what'd you call it? Classic
Okay.
rock.
Classic rock. That's what it is.
I'm just kidding.
Heavy
so
metal.
among heavy metal getting targeted,
Okay.
there was also the Filthy 15. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
Actually,
I
do you
don't
remember
know.
that?
I don't remember the fifth. All I remember
You
about.
would be the only one.
Okay, so this is what I really do remember because it happened in my hometown. It happened in my hometown of Sparks, Nevada,
Uh-huh.
when I
Tell
was.
us.
God, it happened when I was
Tell
4.
us.
Is when it happened, right? So speaking of Judas Priest,
Okay.
heavy metal band.
Yes.
There were 2 boys, right? Raymond
Oh, yeah,
Belknap and James Vance,
Yeah. So these
right? On December 23rd,
Hey, hold up.
1985.
You a story stealer.
I'm sorry.
And
I'm
he's
sorry.
always doing
I
this.
do that. But I lived this. This is what's scary
Yeah.
because this
All right,
is
so
one
go
of
ahead,
my
take it.
earliest memories.
Go ahead.
Okay. So Raymond Belknap and James Vance were drinking and smoking the marijuana
6 hours straight. Hey,
on December
6 hours
23rd,
straight.
72.
There go that. Oh, dang!
It's back.
Oh my God.
Anyway, and they were listening to Judas Priest. And the main song they were listening to Judas Priest was a cover song by Spooky Toots, Better You Than Me. So through the boys drinking, smoking the marijuana, listening to music, they decided to make a suicide pact and shoot themselves in the face with a 12-gauge shotgun.
Jesus. Jesus.
Raymond Belknap died instantly. However, James Vance lived and then had a series of reconstructive surgeries. James Lance died. It says in his story that he found God, but then relapsed, ended up on drugs, died in 1988. How this is the earliest memory for me is I had to have been 6 or 7 at the time. I was playing in a park near my house in Sparks, Nevada, and James Vance came riding by me on a bike, and I only knew it was him because of his face being reconstructed. Now, I tell you, both of you take the time right now to Google James Vance on your phone after the surgery. This image, to this day, still resonates in my mind constantly. And that's how I know this specific story touches really, right. You'll never forget that, will you?
No, that's Voldemort.
Well,
okay.
So
Look, he went through something hard.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
But, okay, so this is what happened, right? So after he was still alive for 3 years, the Vance family sued the band and the record label for $6.2 million, saying there were subliminal messages. They said that the subliminal message said, "Try suicide. Let's be dead and do it." There, the prosecutors played the song repeatedly, forwards and backwards.
Never heard it.
And you can make a backwards sounding say anything you want.
I feel like you can. I honestly
You know what
feel.
I'm
I think
saying?
it's by the mind, and if you just tell your mind, that's what it's saying.
So that's what
I
they
feel
were
like you
trying
could
to
hear
do.
it.
Suggest through suggestion. Oh, this sounds like,
Almost sounds like they
let's
wanted to go.
let's be dead.
I don't know.
But all you're really hearing is, you know what I'm saying? But you're like, oh, that's let's be dead for
I
sure.
think it would sound like more like.
And then everybody else will hear it. Verbatim is what it is backwards.
Continue.
However, the band's defense attorney drew attention to the two boys' extremely bad childhoods and substance abuse, which I can attest is very par for the course in Sparks, Nevada. So the judge ultimately, but this is what was weird about the judge. The judge did say that subliminal messages were not covered under First Amendment speech, because that's what they were. Well, the record can say whatever it wants. It's free speech.
Right.
But he said, look, subliminal messages aren't covered under First Amendment speech. But ultimately, he did say that the band was not responsible for the boys' actions because, they were troubled youth per se.
Right.
So yeah, Judas Priest, got off. And they had a rocky time dealing it with themselves because the lead singer Judas Priest still kind of did. He didn't feel responsible, but it's just that his music was having a negative impact. It hurt him,
Right.
in a way, which anybody would. You want your art out there for people to enjoy. You don't want it to hurt anybody or end up negative in any way.
Right.
What else did you have about heavy metal?
So that was all I did have about heavy metal. The only other thing that I did have on heavy metal was the fact that Twisted Sisters were taken to court due to their the groups that was being formed. I don't know if they created the groups. I think they did create the groups. I can't really remember. But they were creating these groups and calling them Christian groups, which I think is really funny that they were doing that. But they were actually just filled with like a whole bunch of like satanic shit. And then that's all I have really on that one. And then the Judas Priest. Oh, Slayer was also one of the people that were targeted too. A lot of pop rock was definitely targeted.
I mean, later on in
Pop rocks were targeted.
Later on in the 90s, you
Pop
have
rocks.
Pop rock.
Oh,
I'm calling it pop rock.
okay,
Not
go
pop.
ahead.
later
God.
on in the
Now
90s,
most of
you
those.
have Marilyn Manson targeted for Columbine.
That's true.
Yeah. Oh, what's the name?
Ooh, yeah.
Oh, speaking on that, what I do have for coming into the 80s, what really freaking pushed a lot of the 80s was serial killers, and I just have names of them. Ted Bundy. He was the most infamous
Did you
serial
just
killer.
clap for serial killers?
No, he didn't.
I didn't mean.
He must
I
have
want.
watched.
I want
He
to
watched the series. That's what happened.
I want to plead my case before you continue. Hold on, no. Before you
No,
continue.
go ahead, please.
It's because serial killers. Look, I have this weird
You're supposed to
outlook
be like
and
the charming
fascination.
He's the charming.
Is that like
You're being charming.
I'm not backing serial killers on what they do, right? I'm not condoning whatever they did. It happened. It's
been
terrible.
infected. I'm just kidding.
What their mindset was to do such evil things is interesting, and especially the ones that actually live to tell the tale. Now you have Ted Bundy, who sat through multiple interviews, very level-headed, very smart guy.
Well, he was going to be a lawyer.
Right, and
He's
he
intelligent.
presented himself and defended himself in court. Did never hired a team, nothing. You had oh man, the cannibal. So sorry, Dahmer. But even he had multiple interviews. Level-headed, speaking up for himself. He was a very smart guy. I'm not taking away what they did. Very wrong.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting how such a smart person can do such evil acts. But it's that fascination behind it.
Yeah.
It's like I wish I could be in their mental. And
Well, they say there's a very, very
like to
thin
see their
line
brain.
Yeah.
between a psychopath and a genius.
Right.
It's an extremely
And
thin
say
line.
if I think off the course, but I think it's a nurture versus nature thing.
Yeah.
One little thing in their life goes right,
Yeah.
they become the next Edison, next, But
Oh,
instead
you're thinking it's just that small.
I think
thing
it's a
that
tweak
just,
in their life where one thing happened, and then now Dahmer becomes a Dahmer we know.
Oh my God,
as
like they
opposed
have
to
two
Dahmer.
paths.
Well, and that's if
No,
you watch
and I
the
think
show
that's just
Criminal
the
Minds.
day.
So like the
day
butterfly
played with that
effect?
fish.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly.
Remember when he was playing with the fish guts?
That's what did it to the raccoons, all of them. Any girl. It was dude. I just love the fact about. I want to be in the mind of a serial killer one day.
Well, I mean, they say
Well, then you can go to the behavioral analysis.
right. They say it does break down to the McDonald triad. You guys heard about the McDonald triad? So the McDonald triad, what they basically try to group most psychopaths into one field.
Maybe I have heard of
Is the McDonald triad breaks down to three things in your youth.
Oh my God, you've told me.
If you're A, abusive to animals, if you B, wet the bed past 10 years old, and C, fire, have a fascination with fire, arson. Right, if you have those three things, and through the course of your childhood, there's a very strong chance you will be a psychopath.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, never heard about that. I'm glad I fell into one of those categories and not multiple. No, go ahead and continue.
No, still he's the best.
Go ahead and continue. Let's go back to the story of our conspiracy now. What were we going on?
Oh, so I was just going off of Ted Bundy, and then I have John Wayne Gacy, also known as the Killer Clown. That's what I say.
You said John Rain.
No, I know what I say. I'm saying. I just act like I'm smart.
Don't correct him like that. That's not nice. You're a guest here.
No, it's all right. I don't care.
Disrespectful.
And then
We would never do that.
Hey.
Ed Gein.
Ed Gein?
No, I don't have that. I don't have that.
Do you know who Ed Gein was?
No, hold on.
Okay,
I have
sorry.
Dean.
Dean?
No, Dean.
Dean Martin?
The Candyman. Dude, that one scared the shit out of me when I read that name.
Yeah.
Is it Stranger Things?
Yeah, I love Stranger Things.
That's all Dungeons and Dragons.
Really?
Everything about that is Dungeons and Dragons. Yes.
However,
Never even.
Stranger Things is about Satan.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
I guess
Really?
you can make
Satanic
Vecna.
cult?
in a sense, yeah.
You know what? I'm gonna be real right now because it seems like everybody's on Stranger Things, and I'm not.
You never seen it?
And I'm not. And I knew I was gonna face this.
Eventually?
I'm just gonna have to face it.
It's a good
At this
show.
point, I'm gonna have to face it. Yeah.
What are you
I
missing
have-
out
I
on?
have.
What's the reason?
Like
You wanna
why I'm
follow-
not watching
Yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah.
You know what?
You didn't want to follow.
I'm scared.
everyone else.
No, I'm not worried about that
Too
because
intelligent for you.
I've watched like shows like Breaking Bad, and that's kind of the same thing.
No.
Not close.
At all?
You sure?
Yeah.
It's about methamphetamine.
You're not. And that's how they went to Stranger Things.
Okay.
That's for the people who wrote it.
Okay. In the 1980s, we had this thing called MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. I do believe it is still a thing today.
Oh, you're talking about that mother one.
However,
I didn't know about that one.
in 1985, a lady named Patricia Pulley, along with Thomas Radecki joined together to create BAD,
Yeah.
BADD, Bothered About Dungeons and Dragons. This has to be the worst acronym ever created.
Pretty bad.
Yeah.
It was terrible, right?
Bad.
However, these two saw D&D, Dungeons and Dragons, role-playing games, and heavy metal as satanic cult recruitment tools. Why is heavy metal getting such a bad rap? You know, and when I was younger, I was in the 80s, we were taught, don't listen to heavy metal music. It's bad, right? It's terrible.
Yeah.
Now at work, we have, Iron Maiden pinball game, and the songs on it are awesome, bro.
Yeah.
It's what I love listening to throughout the day. It's great. And everybody loves, that's the most popular pinball machine at our work.
Really?
Yeah, people love it. It's great. It's the best.
It is
So
pretty loud, though.
don't believe your parents.
Well, like,
Listen to heavy metal.
Yes.
It'll take you places.
Yeah, I mean, no, absolutely. I don't know. Heavy metal got this bad rap. I don't think it's fair. I'm gonna steer off again, but I don't think it's fair for someone's art to be, is it villainized? Is that the right word that I'm looking for?
I think so.
I don't think it's right for somebody's art to be villainized. You have a whole bunch of good artists. I mean, rock music is really good in my opinion. It's good for different scenarios. Get people hyped up for say you're an athlete. It's a good pregame song. It's a good anything.
I feel like it was targeted definitely due to its rebellion type lyrics.
And I think that's where it ended up. And I think that's why parents probably didn't want kids listening to it because it had a lot of rebellious tendencies to it.
Rebellious against parents, rebellious against government.
It didn't have to go hand in hand with Satanic, but because it was
don't get me wrong. One of Iron Maiden's most popular songs is "Number of the Beast," and so it does correlate sometimes.
Fair.
But it doesn't mean it's bad music and they're telling people to do bad things. Right. They're just singing.
And then again, it goes down. You can't judge somebody on their art and you as a person go do what they said. No, they're singing and doing what you're doing because it's a performance. Right. It's art. They're saying things doesn't mean they're going to live by it.
Yeah.
There's some crazy hard metal rock songs out there. I mean, I grew up listening to Slipknot. There's not any good music you should be listening to from Slipknot.
Yeah. Oh, it's great music listening to it from Slipknot.
But is it going to get you hyped? Sure, But is it something?
That's what he's saying.
No.
That's what he's saying. The good is but the bad is. But the bad is, but the good is.
Yeah.
Like he's not saying that they're bad is, but what's considered as bad is.
All I know
you see is the good is.
I want a shirt that says,
but it's all good is.
The bad is the good is.
Fair.
We should put that on a shirt, and
then we'll just have the number 72 in the corner.
But I want that on just mine.
Yeah, special edition. Special edition.
Ain't no one can get that one. Must have had it.
Outside of that, just circling back to the entire, conspiracy in itself is Satanic Panic. I have articles here that say Satanic Panic still lives on. How do we feel about Satanic Panic now in the whole? Do we believe in it?
I don't think it's called the same thing, but it's the same.
It's the same method coming across. I mean, right now they're targeting Doja Cat for her album, Paint the Town Red, and her song.
It's one of the.
Oh my gosh, you're right.
She's literally in front. She's hugging the Grim Reaper, and they're saying that she wants to be glorifying Marion the demon.
I love Doja Cat. I think her music
100%.
Sam Smith's latest too, and stuff like that.
Right. He's going.
Supposedly with Travis Scott.
Crazy, but
Travis Scott, people were sacrificed there because people started trampling.
trampling.
But it's just like, well, I know, but they could. Oh no! How the media portrayed it.
Yeah. They were saying that you were sacrificed.
It's just like the
media.
Yeah, the media. Media.
But they don't call it Satanic Panic anymore.
Nah. I would stay far from the way to
instead
pronounce
they're calling it, like with Doja Cat, they're saying that she's
glorifying the devil.
She's glorifying the devil. With Sam Smith, it was glorifying the devil. And if you look on little Instagrams or whatever, literally you can find a ton of stuff on Doja Cat right now because her album.
You can tell. Actually, real quick, if you look on the Instagrams.
Yeah, fair.
Hey,
on the Instagrams.
Real quick though. Have you ever looked on the Instagrams?
Hey, Twitter world. I've seen a couple Instagrams.
We're 40.
No, real quick though, do we even title things anymore? Like literally. Okay, so you know how we have Satanic Panic.
Yeah, we have movements.
Okay, what would
Satanic Panic
what would
would be a
today's
movement.
movement towards this stuff be? Excuse me.
Towards the same subject.
I don't think they have a new name for it. No, I don't think they have a new name for it. I don't think they're calling it. I don't think they're trying
We're
to
just
group it
we're
together.
just saying it all now.
Right. I don't think they're trying to group it together.
Okay,
Yeah.
what kind of things do you see being like titled anymore? I mean, I could see like.
I mean, anything people are protesting about is you know, anything that people is.
So this
is
was
a
a whole
movement or
big
group or whatever.
protest.
Yeah.
This is one big ass protest.
I mean, yeah.
God, dude, this protest goes
back a ways.
Yeah, it goes back some
'Cause
ways.
I read certain things that the whole satanic thing, fear in the media started directly after the Manson family murder.
Yeah.
You know, they couldn't believe that a group of people in a cult could be that evil.
And that is true. I mean, in the book Helter Skelter, it talks about that.
Right. And so I think they were like, wow, there is this evil cult in the world. We got to be aware of it. And then,
Bro, there is something.
and then you have
definitely,
Jonestown, you know, another cult.
Oh my
you know?
goodness.
Yeah,
I know about that.
Crazy.
Right.
Oh my god.
So that's the thing. They have
Documentary.
another cult that they're
Ways-
afraid, you know, and so they're saying, look, this has to be done by Satan. You know, God wouldn't allow this to happen to his children, so it has to be Satan intervening. So the media had to call it something. And so, you know, they called it, you know, satanic ritual abuse is what they officially named it in the media.
Yeah.
But the layman's term is satanic panic because everybody was so fearful and panicked about, you know, Satan walking into their house.
Did that cause a rise of churches? Did that cause a boom in
Not
people getting religious?
where I was. I can't say about the Bible Belt. I'm sure it did.
Yeah.
I'm sure it did. But where I was in the country, in Sparks, Nevada, you know,
Not the
everybody
place
just
where,
was,
Where,
you know, had terrible childhoods.
Where the hell was this man?
Yeah, it was. It was terrible.
It was Breaking Bad.
It was
What's
the
the
worst.
matter for you?
It was the worst.
Hey, see, now I know why.
See? And that's what they said. And Reno is so close to hell, you can see sparks.
Wow. Wow.
See?
There it is.
There it is.
Wow. There it is.
Well, there's a satanic panic. I mean, guys, I don't know. I don't know what to believe. You know, always conspiracies are always fun.
I just feel like a lot of people got scared at the same time. It was just like one big old wave that just got pushed.
Mass panic, mass fear.
Yeah, mass panic, mass
By
fear.
the media.
Right.
Why are they creating mass panic and fear?
I feel, you know what?
And are they going to do it again with now aliens?
Of course.
So now it's
They've actually been starting that.
alienic panic.
And we know that from
Well,
looking at the Roswell incident that they were just
It's not going to catch on. It'll be a
Wait,
thing.
what do you think? They were just flooding it. They were just
It's not going to catch on. It'll be a
Wait,
thing.
what do you think? They were just flooding it the
Yeah.
same way they flooded Roswell.
Yeah. Alienic panic.
Analanic panic.
See, I told you it'll catch on. You just got to get to the dummies.
72.
Oh, okay.
That's where they find them.
Hey, cheers to 72. I know there's another one out there.